because we do have this Two of Wands coming out in the fourth row. Let me see what that message was on the back. Oh, this was a wealthy man that was trying to get this sacrifice off the ground. That didn't even have the proper mixture. It didn't have the proper mixture to come off of the ground. And there was some inaction, like I said, you know, procrastination, inaction, all that sort of stuff was really one of the causal, the cause of this attempted sacrifice that didn't even blend well. Because see, we also have the suffering and silence in the reverse, and we have, let me see, that came out in the reverse, and then we also have another temperance card in the upright, along with the message of shadow, and the distant horizon is on the flip side of that row. So when I see the inaction card and suffering and silence, maybe that, lack of action, because that's procrastination and a refusal to, to respond. That's irresponsible if you don't really have any type of action, or if it's a delayed action, or if it's even just a choice that didn't get made. It's like, who cares? You know what I mean? That type of thing is a direct cause of this silent suffering, suffering in silence. But it came out in the reverse. So maybe someone is not, you know, maybe someone's suffering can be seen. It's not in silence. It's probably as a result of this indecision and inaction. This type of suffering is visible. And then it's also confirmed to be visual by this body cam, just showing that there's some, visual proof, visual evidence, and it can be by way of any type of form. It can come in the form of any way. It doesn't have to be camera recorded. It could be an eyewitness. Somebody that's seen something. Because it don't forget that it's a no-winning situation here. Because this Seven of Wands, it has a guy surrounded by seven sticks. You feel me? So I don't know how far that goes. I should have read into it, to figure out more on that Seven of Wands. But then coming into this inaction and this suffering in public, because silence would be suffering by yourself. No one would really know, and then with this temperance coming out again with that silence, with that public suffering, we got the shadow, some things that was done in the dark, somebody's shadow side was operating. And then, that's confirmed because we got this devil coming out in the very next row. In the fifth row, yes, the devil does show up for today's read. He always comes out from, he comes out quite a bit. And then this firm foundation in the reverse. This devil is the direct, cause for some of this stuff that's going on within this marriage. I just want to burn that card because I'm so sick of seeing and talking about it. Oh, this marriage and this choice. This will not probably be getting uploaded. But yeah, it just looks like, indecision. And then that Two of Cups is talking about a choice as well, Two of Cups and the Two of Wands. Both of them. Well, one of them is talking about action, inaction or action. And then the Cups, that's just talking about a choice. Somebody had a choice, probably when dealing, regarding their foundation, that they maybe established their own foundation with the choices that they made. And, it's not a firm foundation because of the choice. They don't have a firm, somebody is dealing with a not firm foundation, And I'm not speaking of a home. This is actually speaking of an individual's foundation. Like their body is not firm, is not on a firm foundation. And there's infertility, and that might be, dealing with some type of a sexual issue. Nobody, somebody may not be able to, have, intercourse, like as normal, like an erection. Maybe having some issues with an erection because of this infertility, and also because of, you know, maybe there's a no-win situation. This is what caused it. And then also, the sudden wealth was coming out. But that's a contradiction, because if something's infertile and then there's a sudden wealth message on the bottom, maybe, this Ace of Swords, this lie, is maybe what produced some of these consequences, like infertility, and also, sudden wealth. Somebody had to lie to kick it, because this lie just pops out right after this sudden wealth. And maybe, this lie was just to maybe create an illusion of positive movement forward. Because when that's in the reverse, that's just stagnation. That's like, still waters. There's no life in that. No fertility, and there's no life in this lie that was told. Um, Probably dealing with this Queen of Cups. Maybe she was the curator of this lie, or she was the author of it. She was probably the one that established this lie, having something to do with a journey in the reverse. So maybe somebody had to lie about a journey, you know, because it wasn't a positive journey. It was no positive movement forward in this journey. And said, this is what it looks like. The result of it was a failed sacrifice attempt, which this is repeated. It's a repeated subject matter. Failed sacrifice attempt, and then it could be been done by a family. A family had a failed sacrifice attempt, and there may be some false identity also involved in this matter, and it didn't even have the proper mixture with this show me your ID. Somebody didn't have the proper mixture when it came to their identity or who they was presenting to be, because we have a lie out here and no positive movement forward with this wealthy man. So this wealthy man and this Queen of Cups in the reverse, you know, are the people that actually are responsible for spreading this lie, for this sudden wealth. I'm assuming that it had to be a journey for sudden wealth. That's what this first row is talking about. That's the crux of the reading. It's this sudden wealth that came out in the very first row, and some infertility, and that's dealing with this wand on the very bottom of it. Is actually dealing with, erectile dysfunction, and even, you know, an impossible situation with this erectile dysfunction. It's a no-win situation. There's no positive movement forward. We got lies out here, and we got imbalances with these temperances in the reverse. And then one of them came out in the upright with the hermit, and a failed sacrifice attempt due to the improper mixture of, improper mixture of someone's, identity that they tried to take. This wealthy man here, he comes out too every read. Sometimes I wonder my shuffling methods. So I just keep shuffling, shuffling, and shuffling so I can hopefully get some different cards out, each read. But no matter what I do with my shuffling, the same cards keep coming and approaching. But then moving on, to this very last row, because like I said, somebody's suffering in public. This suffering has gone viral. Someone can actually see this. People are seeing it and they're aware of what was done, in the shadow, in the dark, because that's what the shadow speaks about. And somebody being a fake ass. We got a fake ass on the deck. Or somebody's not a fake ass because it did come out in the reverse. Or maybe they're trying to show up like they're, like they're real, or like they're, not. But in the distant horizon, um, some things will be, public. The silence and the suffering will be seen by all, from what these cards are saying. And that's because there was no firm foundation with this choice that was taken by this attorney, or this choice that was taken, to work with his shadow side, you know, regarding a marriage. And a big lie, because that's almost at the very foundation of the read. It's one of the first few cards that came out was a lie, and an imbalance to a family, or a family told a lie to create imbalance, for this sacrifice that did not go through. The sacrifice didn't take, and there was no temperance to it as well. And so maybe, what seemed like a no-winning situation, it has involved protection, you know. Protection is surrounding this read. When we got this Seven of Wands, with you being surrounded on all sides, there's just really no way out, surrounded on all sides, about this lie that was told from this Queen of Cups and this erectile dysfunction. This person that's dealing with erectile dysfunction and no balance, no temperance, no proper mix, no sacrifice, and even no family, because that family card is in the reverse. This affected everyone. And then this suffering, like I said, is going to be publicized, because it's not going to be a silent suffering. It's going to be visible, a visible suffering. Confirmation with this body cam here. It's going to be all visible. It's going to be seen and shown. Whatever type of lie that they told, for this sudden wealth. 1111 on the timer. It'll be seen and shown.